So we're continuing on our series of going over the Washington Redskins of the 1980s. And in today's video, we're going to talk about this gentleman who we haven't really heard a lot about him in a lot of other videos. And of course, he was a pretty popular guy, I felt, as far as one of our greatest defensive players, as you recall, from the 1980s. But we're going to talk about Dexter Manley in this video. We're going to start it right now. And welcome back to another video here on the Washington Football Maniacs channel. My name is Greg. I am your host here. And this channel is dedicated to news and commentary for the Washington Commanders. If you're down with that, please make sure that you have subscribed to this channel. And when you do, also hit that notification bell so you won't miss any other video releases. Before we get into today's video, I know a lot of you, including myself, have had some issues with finances. You know, you're trying to stretch that dollar out as far as it will go. You know, maybe you've had the medical bills to pile up. You know, you're trying to come up with money to pay for your child's education. Well, our partners here at Mint Mobile want to help out. You know, they realize that sometimes your mobile phone bill can get outrageous, and so they're here to see if they can help alleviate some of your just costly expenses so you don't have to sacrifice as much.
Look, if your family is anything like mine, you have probably at one point or another have had to make some major sacrifices. Maybe you've had an unexpected medical bill pop up, or your car breaks down. Maybe you're just trying to have some money saved up for your child's education. Well, that is why I'm so intrigued by Mint Mobile, who this video is in partnership with. They offer premium wireless starting at $15 a month. I could get high-speed data and unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. I could even bring my phone along with my current phone number, contacts. I'm telling you, I am sacrificing absolutely nothing. Everything that you can do with your big-time cell phone service, you can do with Mint Mobile. So how hard is it to switch your service? I switched to Mint Mobile in less than 15 minutes. How did I do it? Well, it was easy. I just used my phone's eSIM card. 15 minutes later, let me tell you, you are up and running. You're making phone calls, you're using data. But Greg, my phone is a little bit older. I don't have one of them eSIM doohickeys. A doohickey. Oh, okay. Well, you don't need an eSIM doohickey. If you don't have an eSIM doohickey, Mint Mobile will send you a physical SIM card for free. That's right, for free. So if you want to save a little money on your wireless without making any sacrifices, why don't you go to my link in the description below. It is trymintmobile.com/maniacs to get started on getting premium wireless service for as low as $15 a month. And this is when you sign up for a 3-month plan. And get this, new customers, if you sign up for a Mint Mobile plan before May 31st, you will get a 6-month subscription to Paramount Plus Essential on Mint Mobile. Visit Mint Mobile today. Link will be in the description below. Now back to the podcast.
So during the 1980s, Richie Bitbon was our defensive coordinator, and he really had our defense humming. I mean, you know, he had faces to kind of change throughout the 1980s, but he had a lot of what I call, I guess, anchored type of, I guess nowadays you might call them blue chippers. And maybe you would call this gentleman a blue chipper, maybe, Dexter Manley. You know, of course, a lot of people talk about Charles Mann, which Charles Mann was one of the mainstay. You know, he stayed with the Washington Redskins through almost his entire career until he went to San Francisco and wound up, you know, winning another Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers. But and that, honestly, that was something I almost forgot. I thought he had stayed with the Redskins throughout his entire career, but he actually didn't. But Dexter Manley, he was a fantastic football player. I mean, he was a mean guy. He loved rushing the quarterback. Sometimes he was a little over aggressive, I think. Sometimes he kind of, I guess maybe be a little, I guess, what do you call it? So aggressive that it would almost play into the hands of some of the other quarterbacks who would oftentimes kind of audible into maybe like a shovel pass and stuff like that. But regardless, he was a mean guy on the field. I mean, he really enjoyed playing football, and having him as a bookend along with Charles Mann made that defensive line nasty. And then having Dave Butts there along that defensive line. I mean, it was a nasty, nasty defensive line for the Washington Redskins during that 1980s team. I mean, fantastic, fantastic guy. And I enjoyed watching Dexter Manley play. He was a beast. He was a beast of a guy. He also had his demons as well, but he was a fantastic player, and he was drafted in the fifth round. So he was one of the guys that you could say that it was definitely a diamond in rough for Bobby Beathard, right? Goes to show you as well, you don't always have to draft your defensive linemen, especially your defensive ends. Excuse me, your defensive ends in the first round or second or even the third round. Sometimes you can find those guys in the fifth round, and Dexter Manley was one of those guys. So he was 119th overall pick by the Washington Redskins in the 1981 draft. And he played in Washington for 9 seasons. And during his career, Manley won 2 Super Bowl titles. He was a Pro Bowler in 1986, where he recorded a Redskins single-season record of 18.5 sacks. I mean, that's outstanding. 1989, Manley failed his 3rd drug test. Now, this was a sad part. With an opportunity to apply for reinstatement after 1 year, he then played for the Phoenix Cardinals and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. However, after he failed his 4th drug test, he retired on December 12, 1991. He had a series of arrests related to his drug problem, and he was ultimately convicted and served 2 years in prison. Officially, Manley had 97.5 quarterback sacks in his career. His total rises to 103.5 when the 6 sacks he had his rookie year of 1981. We're not okay. We're not yet an official stat. Well, yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm learning how to read. I'm just kidding. When his stats were not really an official stat yet, were included. After his career in the United States ended, he revealed that he was functionally illiterate despite having studied at Oklahoma State University for 4 years. He then went on in 1992-93 to play in the Canadian Football League for the Ottawa Rough Riders. He also played for the Shreveport Pirates as well. So he wanted to make a comeback into professional football and went up to Canada to play football there. So he played professional football together up until 1993. So altogether, he played professional football for about 12 years. The unfortunate thing certainly was the drug problem that Manley had. Personal life, he was nicknamed the Secretary of Defense during his time with the Redskins. He resides up in D.C. Manley underwent brain surgery in June 2006 to treat a colitic cyst. He first learned about the cyst in '86 after he collapsed in Georgetown, Washington, at a department store. His prognosis was a relatively full recovery, although doctors have said that memory loss is a common side effect of the operation. In 2020, it was announced that Manley had tested positive for COVID-19. In Shame of College Sports in 2011, after the Atlantic by Taylor. Okay, so we're reading about the was famous quoted as saying that he was functionally illiterate in college, which is kind of interesting. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of mumbling. Sometimes like, oh, by the way, the camera's on. Um, I just want to kind of touch on the functionally illiterate. You would kind of. It just kind of shocks me that being in higher education, or even like going through high school and all of that, and being able to get into college, it really makes you wonder that how was he able to get through to college and, not really being literate. Of course, yes, you can, I'm not naive as far as, if you're on a scholarship, football scholarship and things like that, you're probably going to get help as far as your studies and things like that. I'm not even going to go and speculate how he got help, whether if it was actually legit or anything like that. But it's just it makes you wonder that nowadays there's a lot of different avenues and tools to really help children who struggle with reading comprehension, just reading in general, which is very very good, you know. But it really does make you wonder. But at the same time, it's outstanding to know that he was able to make it into the NFL, and make something of himself, knowing that he had disabilities like that, learning disabilities. So it is something to say that despite any type of shortcomings, disabilities, roadblocks that you may have, don't give up on your dreams. You can find ways to reach your goals. It may be a little bit more of a difficult road for you, but you can get there. You just got to find ways to get around it. Hopefully legal ways. I'm not saying, do what you got to do, legal or not. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you don't give up on your dreams just because it might not be as easy for you as others, right? But at the same time, the drug situation, I do remember that. I remember Dexter Manley having drug issues. And I hated that because, the suspensions he had and so forth, it was like, he was one of my favorite players, of course, on the team. He was one of the best players on the team, right? And so him having the drug issues, and then when he finally was basically, I don't know if you consider him being kicked off the team, but him being suspended from the NFL. Of course, I remember him being, when he went to, what was then Phoenix. I don't know if it was against us or who he was playing against, but I remember like he just took the player's helmet completely off his head, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, this dude is still on something. Like, just the rage. There was rage in him, and I just felt that there's something about this guy, right? But overall, for the Redskins, not a whole lot is ever spoke of about Dexter Manley, and maybe it is because of the personal issues in his life. that he has had to face. And people are going to talk about Charles Mann, and Daryl Green and Art Monk, and some of the more positive influences. Because and rightfully so. Those guys, they were positive influences. A lot of those guys, had good family. They were good family men, and certainly, they had long, successful careers and stuff like that. And honestly, Dexter Manley also had what I consider a successful career in the NFL as well. Sack leader, and having that cyst on his brain that was discovered, in the 80s, right? That was something to see as well. And you kind of wonder, did that come up from maybe the drugs he was taking? Who knows? Again, I don't want to speculate. But overall, he had what I considered, overall, I think he had a pretty good run with the Redskins. Again, it was just a nasty thing with Dexter Manley on one side, Charles Mann on the other. The dude. It was kind of like, that I would say that first year. Think about that first year with Chase Young on one side and Montez Sweat on the other. Now, if we could have had that, and of course you had Deron Payne in the middle and John Allen. Now, if we could have had that, for years to come, that's basically what we had. And what I'm talking about is that 2020 season, right? Where, it was rookie of the year type of Chase Young, right? And Montez Sweat, and Deron Payne and John Allen, playing at their best. Picture that. That's what you had with Charles Mann and Dexter Manley, and then in the middle, you had Grant, and you had Dave Butts. You had guys like that up in the middle. It was a dominating defensive line, and throughout the 80s, that was kind of the mainstay. You had guys who rotated in, but you had Dave Butts played, I think, up until was it the 87 year, or I'd have to check again, and maybe he will wind up being one of our episodes. Who knows? But Dave Butts was one of the mainstays on that defense throughout the 80s. But that defensive line, and that's what I've always said, that if you really want a defense and an offense to really run smoothly, it's all got to start in the trenches. And so the bookends, I think you always got to make sure you got strong bookends there. And so Dexter Manley and Charles Mann were the bookends. And so, again, I just wanted to kind of, shed some light on Dexter Manley, because I don't think there's a lot that's ever said about Dexter. And so it is a shame that, he had to deal with what he dealt with his demons. Some of the health issues he's had to deal with, brain surgery, but he's with us today. He's 65 years old, but hopefully, he's in a better place as far as his health now. And I'm glad that, that hopefully he's over all of his demons and issues like that. And, maybe we'll see him around Commander's Park now. Folks, if you enjoyed this video, Give it a like, give it a share. And with that said, we will see you in the next one. Take care, folks.